in any way would see that that's a conspiracy that's very well tried. Jesse, we're just about ready for our last break, and then we'll come back for our last half hour. But go ahead and mention your website one more time, because people's memories are...
weain'tgotttimetoBleed.com is my official website. And again, the book is Democrypts and Republicans, No More Gangs in Government.
And, of course, it's available, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, all that?
Yeah, I think so. It should be out there everywhere unless they're censoring it. I don't know, I can't get on Fox TV, I can't get on MSNBC, and I can't get on Don Imus. So, I don't have all the firepower I used to have, because I guess I'm too controversial now.
Yeah, but, I don't see anything wrong with controversy myself at all. But what I'm saying, I know, of course, you've had a lot of exposure to the media on a higher level than myself, like MSNBC and what have you. But I can promise you, on the say in the minor leagues, say like AAA ball, like I play in, there is a conspiracy against controversial guests or people that just don't toe a certain mark. There really is. But that's a whole other story. But we'll go ahead and we'll have our last break. And I'm sure looking forward to talking about some other things with the TSA and scanners and all kinds of other little goodies they've got for us.
Okay.
Well, it's good to be back with you all, and I know you're enjoying Jesse Ventura and our interview. There's so many good points. And the thing I have to emphasize is that everything we're saying is true here. And if you just stop and really look at things and, like Jesse said, follow the money, you basically understand where all the bodies are buried, or for the most part you do. Maybe you don't.
Well, you'll get an idea at least where the graveyard is.
Exactly. One of the things I know, and we'll get right into the book in just a second, but it's kind of related. Jesse, you know that Zbigniew Brzezinski is a national security advisor to Obama?
Well, what's interesting about that is that Zbigniew Brzezinski, I have a photograph of him standing buddies with Osama bin Laden.
No, I didn't know that. That tops.
Oh yeah, you need to remember. Back in the 80s, Osama bin Laden was our ally.
All right.
We created him. When Russia invaded Afghanistan. It was Osama and his people that fought them.
That's true.
And it's like my son said to me one day, once CIA, always CIA.
Yeah.
No, I have a photograph of bin Laden, a very young bin Laden, standing right with Brzezinski, and they look like bosom buddies.
Wow. Well, I'm not surprised, but I guess the thing that struck me is, Brzezinski is pushing 90 years old. And I think, there must be more current people, unless, obviously, he's the part of the official...
You got me. Well, let's remember, Supreme Court... we all have to retire, but they don't. Supreme Court justices are in there for life.
That's true.
Look at some of the congressmen. What was it, Jesse Helms? How old was he when he finally kicked the bucket?
Oh, it was the South Carolina... Strom Thurmond, I think he was 90.
Yeah, Strom Thurmond. There you go. There's another one. That's who I meant, Strom Thurmond.
Yeah,
he had to be like 96, and he was still in Congress.
Somewhere up there. He was way
I loved my father dearly.
Yeah.
But when he reached 80 years old, I wouldn't want him making decisions for the country.
No. But, I guess one of the things in the book that, it's excellent. Many different interesting little tidbits, but I've always been half in love with Erin Burnett, and I know she covers she's the NBC, financial guru, if you will, and she has had some pretty snide coverage of this OW, the Occupy Wall Street movement. I think in the book you said she's made some real critical comments of it, and that she's marrying some kind of financial banker. Is that not right, or?
I don't recall that particular bit of information, but it might be in there. I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
The book's 305 pages, and I wrote it last winter.
Oh, I know. I'm the same way. But you do obviously have a slant, and the thing you mentioned, I'm so glad you highlighted it, because that slob Newt Gingrich was making fun of the Occupy Wall Street people, and yes, maybe it's not the best run movement that ever was, and maybe a little wishy-washy, but it's a groundswell against obvious tyranny.
Here's the thing people need to remember. The people should have supported that movement even if you agreed or disagreed with them, and I'll tell you why. all they were doing was exercising supposedly their First Amendment rights in this country, the right to assemble. And even if you disagreed with them, someday you may want to protest something, and you don't want to get run off with dogs and pepper spray. And I make the point in the book. I went down to the Occupy Wall Street in Minneapolis about 6 times. And it was interesting because it was late in the year and it was getting very cold. And they allowed a park ordinance that said no generators in the park. So the Occupy people could not have a generator to keep warm, but there was a generator down there running 24/7. And on top of it was a surveillance camera. So again, it's another example of the government does not have to abide by the law, but we do.
Right. Well,
and
that's
again,
very true.
I go back to what I said earlier. They're supposed to work for us, not us for them.
And I really like the contrast you made about the Tea Party people can meet here, there, and everywhere. Nobody's billy clubbing them or pepper spraying.
Oh, yeah. You notice the Tea Party, they don't get dogs and pepper spray at all. They can do anything. If Glenn Beck's there, they can do anything they want to do.
True.
Pretty much. But yet the Occupy people get run off with dogs. The best thing I ever saw, there was a gigantic African-American former Marine at one of them. And he was standing out there hollering at him, "Where is your honor?" to the police. Yeah. And I thought, here's a hero.
Right.
You know? This guy's standing asking them where their honor is, because again, whether you agreed or disagreed, all they were doing was exercising their First Amendment rights, and that is they have the right to protest.
There were a few other troops. There were a few other troops that did that too, weren't there? I mean, it seemed like there was a little movement to that. Servicemen were sticking their nose into that.
And there's another thing that occurred in Minnesota too. The Occupy people, the Occupy people were actually feeding homeless people their food and coffee when they were down there.
Good.
You know, so these were people there, and they weren't just old hippies or young hippies. I went down there. You had all walks of life represented down there, and it was just a gathering of people that are tired of seeing, and their main message, like the media kept saying, well, they don't have any message. The message was simple. They were telling Wall Street, quit buying our politicians.
Yeah, that's the basic message.
That was the message. Stop buying our politicians.
Right.
And so, anyway, getting back, I want people to understand, too, with me, in case there's anything on Twitter out there that they claim is from me, it is not, because I do not do Twitter. I've never done one, and I never will. So if there's frauds out there giving out messages from me, it's not true, because I don't do Twitter. I never have.
So there's been some fraudulent postings under your name or something like that?
Yeah. My son made me aware of it. There's people out there that are posting things allegedly from me. And it's false, because I don't do that. I'm computer illiterate. The only computer I know how to use is at my golf club, where I can put my handicap in.
Yeah.
And that's the extent.
Okay.
That's the extent of my computer usage. I'm computer ignorant. I don't own a cell phone, and I'm happy with both.
Yeah. Well, it has one of the central themes of the show I do usually on Tuesday nights is the kind of encroaching loss of freedom we're having. I mean, in all kinds of different areas, like we talked about the TSA, that drives me nuts too. I mean, here this guy's supposed to...
let me give you what happened to me. I have metal in my body, right?
Sure.
I have metal in my body, so when I pass through the metal detector, it's going to go off if I go through naked. So then I'm subjected either to the X-ray machine, which I refuse to go into, because at the time I was flying about 4 times a week, and you're not going to tell me that getting X-rayed 4 times a week is not going to have adverse side effects on you.
Oh,
so I would opt out and go for the pat-down. Well, the pat-down wasn't so bad until they enhanced it and they turned it into a sexual assault. I had it done to me once. I came home and I told my attorney I want to sue. And so we brought forth a lawsuit. Now get this, originally we were going to sue under the American Disabilities Act, because the American Disabilities Act says you're to accommodate the disability. They were exploiting mine, because technically I'm disabled. Okay? 2 days later, my attorney calls me back. He says, well, we can't sue under the American Disabilities Act. I said, why not? This case is perfect for it. He said, it doesn't apply to the government. Now, there's your double standard again. All of us in the private sector have to honor the American Disabilities Act, but the federal government doesn't.
So they get.
So I can't sue under that. So we then sued under the Fourth Amendment, reasonable search and seizure.
Right.
I contended that it was not reasonable to believe I'm a threat. I've been flying for 30 years. I'm an honorably discharged Navy veteran. I'm a former governor and a former mayor.
Yeah.
And when it got to federal court, and I might add, I spent $20,000 to get it there because we were prepared. We wanted to go to trial. We wanted to have our case go in front of a jury and let a jury make the determination. Well, here's what goes on every case that's brought against TSA or Homeland Security. The judge throws it out and says she doesn't have jurisdiction.
Really?
Now, this is a federal judge. If a federal judge, this is a constitutional Bill of Rights question. If a federal judge doesn't have jurisdiction, then no one does, and that's precisely how they get around it.
But how can they say that and get away with it? I mean,
because all the judge has to do is throw it out. Where can you take it? You can't take it nowhere.
Oh.
You've got to have a case to go to the Court of Appeals.
Right.
And so they throw it out. They simply won't hear it. So people need to understand clearly that any time you go to any airport in America, you are not protected by the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. In other words, they can do anything they want to you because you have nowhere you can take it for redress because the courts won't hear it. That's what they're doing with every single case. They simply won't hear it.
I'm glad you said that because you don't hear this anywhere else, Jesse. No one has ever said that, and that in such clear
Exactly.
terms.
You don't hear the media. The media, they don't cover it. They were out there, and all they covered was when I was ticked off and said that they had stripped me of my patriotism because they won't let me go to court over my Fourth Amendment constitutional rights. And let me add this to all former military people and current military people. Remember, you took an oath. I did too. You took an oath to defend the Constitution and Bill of Rights against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yeah.
And right now, I believe our government is a domestic enemy on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Well, I guess I did too, Jesse. Just been so long, I forgot I did.
You certainly did. You took an oath that you would protect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And, so remember that the current military, now that they've turned you loose inside the United States, remember you took an oath. And
well,
I would love to see the military refuse to do it.
It would be nice. It would be nice. But I mean, so yeah, because actually, when all that came up with at the airport and your situation, they kind of pitched it in such a way that it made it seem like Jesse Ventura is a prima donna and he's making an issue, a false issue, if you will. But that's because they were trying to.
I'm not a prima donna. It's my livelihood.
Oh, I know.
I now refuse to fly.
Yeah.
Because I won't subject myself to being treated like a criminal.
See, but I'm saying they were trying to twist it in such a way that instead of a wrong being done, it was as though he's taking it wrong or something like that. Anything.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's
I
simply that I do not want to be treated like a criminal anymore. I've been a governor, right. I've been a mayor, and I'm an honorably discharged veteran.
Sure.
Why I pose no threat.
I know.
And so why should I be treated like a criminal at the airport?
I'm just saying it's typical, what do you call it, distorting of the news to discredit you or something unfairly is all I'm trying to say.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I'm sure they do, And as I said, nobody goes to court on it. Have you seen one case?
No.
Against the TSA or Homeland Security? No, because they throw them out.
Yeah.
They simply won't hear them.
I know. That is wild, but now that you mentioned, I can't remember one case that's ever been adjudicated or anything. No settlements given, nothing. That's true. And nobody has ever mentioned that either, for that matter. In all the discussion of it, they've never brought that up.
Yep.
That it really is scary, and that scares the heck out of me. That Tennessee will, now, I guess these people got such broad-ranging powers, I guess it really wasn't even necessary for Tennessee to give them the okay, I guess.
Probably not. And get ready. I'm sure it's going to start spreading like wildfire across the country, And again, it comes back to we, the public, are standing back here, and we're allowing them to take away our freedoms, all with this phony war on terror,
right. Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, I've been suspicious, Jesse, ever since you were talking about cell phones early on in our interview. I've, all that bit when they started putting the GPS trackers in there, and we want to make sure if you have a 911 emergency, we'll be able to get you. I said, yeah, right. Go ahead.
I've bought 2 cars with that North Star on it. The first thing I do is disable it.
Yeah.
Because all they're going to do is that gives them the ability to track you
and have a roving
bug. Where you are,
too.
when you are, and the whole thing.
A roving bug too. They could listen to your conversation just as if they had a regular mic in there. They use the mic on the cell phone, and I'll bet you the North Star thing, same way, that they could listen to you talking about what you want to have for lunch or anything else.
Who knows?
If people think I'm talking nonsense, the FBI even calls that a roving bug. That's their name for it, a roving bug. So, I mean, this is, hardcore stuff. This isn't something Jesse and I just, came up with out of a box.
Well, and to me, it's a complete violation of your Fourth Amendment, too.
Yeah, it is. But whatever happened to anybody even knowing what the amendments are? I guess we don't have many citizenship classes anymore like we used to. At least people.
Well, immigrants have to know it.
I know.
The problem is the regular citizens don't even know it.
I know.
Maybe we should all go back to immigrants. You know what my favorite sign was during all the immigration protests and all that?
What's that?
I saw a sign that said the Pilgrims didn't have visas.
Well, that's not a bad one. That really isn't.
Well, to me, let's look at the situation. We came here, we killed all the Native Americans, we took their land, and now we're going to tell anybody that comes here, you better have a paperwork or you're not going to be here?
Well, it's pretty good.
And I realize it was hundreds of years ago, but it's just ironic. Yeah. How it's okay for us to do it, but now if anybody comes here, you better have paperwork, and it better be in order.
There was a thing I saw this week, and this will fit in with the book too. I mean, one of the things that mentioned in the book was that there's the FAST program where the Homeland Security's got a deal to check your blood pressure in case you would react in, say, a nervous manner or something like that. That's getting pretty high tech.
Oh, it's going to be better than that. We found out during my show this year. We did one on the TSA.
Oh wow!
And you know what they got waiting for you now?
No.
Wristbands.
Wristbands?
Yeah, you'll be able to put that way when you go out there, you can put this wristband and it'll give a full readout of everything they need to know about you. But here's what they don't tell you. Part of these wristbands they will be able to disable you.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Like something out of a science fiction movie. My goodness.
Well, they'll be able to disable you. They'll have the mechanism where by wearing this wristband, they can drop you to the floor if they want to. Much like a taser gun. It's like a taser.
Wow. Now that's really getting heavy. That really.
Oh yeah, that's in our show on the TSA. That's probably why they're not going to see the light of day.
Boy, that could be.
We're informing the people about what they got in store for them in the future.
Wow.
With the TSA and all that. We do an episode on the TSA.
That's amazing. Well, now that does make sense. They wouldn't let you know that, but I think there was some little Star Trek things from way back when they had like a little collar, and if you got out of line, the collar would drop you or something like that. Yeah. Wow. I didn't know they were that high tech. Yep. But they had a thing this week on that's pretty bizarre itself. It isn't quite as well. I don't know. It could be just as nefarious in its own way. They've got a deal that the local police do. It's a scanner, and it can scan 1,800 license plates almost at a time. And they're using it ostensibly to catch people, on warrants or something like this. But if that is an unreasonable search and seizure, I don't know what is.
Exactly.
That's no probable cause.
I have a chapter in my book called "Is the Bill of Rights Been Shredded?" Yeah. And we give all sorts of examples like that. But anyway, are we winding down here? Because I certainly am. I'm getting right to the end of my rope.
Well, I don't want you at the end of your rope because I want to have you relaxed and come back after a couple months of vacation and be on the show again.
Okay, I appreciate it very much, and it's been nice talking to you tonight. And again, I urge people, we still have the power of the vote. Yeah, hopefully. Well, I know you wanted to talk about the electronic voting machines. Let's get that out of the way.
Oh, yes, I did want to talk about that. Okay.
Well, what we've got to do, we've got to go back to the old paper ballot, because the electronic voting machines can be hacked into. I showed it in my previous book, 63 Documents the Government Doesn't Want You to See, and I showed it in American Conspiracies, and I touch on it again in this one. You can hack into any voting machine, electronic voting machine, the way you can hack into any computer. And let me put it in layman's terms. Would you go to an ATF machine that didn't offer you a receipt?
No.
No. Well, these don't offer a receipt. When you vote an electronic voting machine, there is no way you know. If you say you push Barack Obama for president, there is no way you know if Barack Obama received your vote.
Exactly.
Because there's no receipt. Plus, if you have to have a recount, all it does is give you numbers like an adding machine. It doesn't give you individual ballots to recount. So in some ways, old is better than new. And in the case of voting, I'm a huge advocate that we go back to simply paper ballots. If you're not capable of taking a pencil and filling in the circle or whatever, you've been doing that since first grade.
Right.
When you took your first tests. If you're not capable of doing that, you probably shouldn't be voting in the first place.
True enough.
But the point is, these electronic voting machines, as I said, they can be hacked, they can be gotten into, and another way, they can do it to where, say, one candidate won't receive a vote until there's been 250,000 cast for them.
Oh,
They can start in the negative.
Wow.
To where they have to get 250,000 votes before you see vote number one.
Right.
That all of those things can happen. And I believe that George Bush's second election was stolen that way, because we covered it in American Conspiracies, where Diebold, this company that handles the electronic voting machines, they were a huge contributor to the Republican Party. And all the votes from Ohio got mysteriously sent to Tennessee before they were rotated back to Ohio to be counted. And all the exit polls had John Kerry winning Ohio, and yet George Bush won it. And that's what put him over the top. And ironically, there was a guy that was their main computer guy. He was going to whistle blow, and his plane crashed mysteriously right before he was due to go to Washington and testify.
Wasn't that coincidental? That's really wild. A lot of that going around. A lot of
so there you go. Anyway, I got to run. I appreciate it.
Okay.
You guys keep up the good work. And it's been nice talking to you tonight, but I'm kind of burnt out. I need to get off.
I know. Well, listen, I'll keep up with you, and I'll send you another contact through the publicist when you get off some vacation time.
Okay, very good. And again, I want to reemphasize, I do not use Twitter. Okay. So anything out there is not from me.
Okay, buddy. Well, you take care and take some rest, and I've enjoyed it very much.
All right, thanks. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, I guess we wore Jesse down, but it sounds like he's been doing an awful lot of interviews. But he had some really interesting information. I really appreciated what he just said, and it makes very good sense. I mean, whenever I'm at an ATM and it says no receipt, do you want to proceed? And I say no. I'm out of that right that minute. And anybody with any sense would too. And the idea, even just the very idea, fellas, of a disabling wristband that the TSA would be working on, well, that's just too far gone. I'm not surprised at all. And also, just think about, just as business people and everything else, they've paid Jesse for these 8 new conspiracy segments, okay? This True TV, which has nothing else going for it except his show for the most part, okay? They've advanced him money for this, and they're not showing it? Now, come on. I mean, unless you were born last week, you'd see something smelly to that. So, fellas, I guess maybe I'm too conspiratorial, but then I'm not so certain. Some things are so obviously wrong, like them not showing that 3rd series when it's the only thing that put True TV on the map. That smells a rat right there. Anyhow, it's been provocative, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And once again, tomorrow I'm going to have Laurie Champion on, and she's a big EVP gal. She's got evidence of those and afterlife evidence, and that'll be on the Kevin Cook Show on the same time and place at 8 p.m. Central. I've enjoyed having you with me tonight, and thank Ken Cherry for it. And also Arthur Faram is going to be on July 10th. And he's going to have some hidden history issues on the Kevin Cook Show, so you might like that too. Got a lot of variety, and I've sure enjoyed it, and I wish you all a very good night. I hope you enjoyed the show. Good night.
Thank you for being with us tonight. Please join us again next Monday evening for Extraordinary Phenomena Investigations Council's Epic Voyages. I'm Roger Peacock for Epic. Until next time.